I've always loved language and learned to speak many languages, and words are something that I take great pleasure in. And so for me, poetry is really the place where I can bring the images from the photography into language. And so in some ways it really brings the two things together. My first chapbook was called The Tao of Loathliness, and that was based on a character from medieval German romance called Parsifal. And it was the character of the loathly damsel named Kundry, who was also the Grail messenger, but she was a really crucial character in terms of what she did, and she was someone who I had a really strong identification with, because she was an outsider, because she was learned, and because she loved language, and because she worked with plants and healing, and she was a very spiritual character. She was very deeply spiritual. And I was asked, based on one poem that I brought to a workshop, I was asked to write this chapbook, which I did. And I wrote through Kundry's character. So the chapbook is really an amalgamation of myself and Kundry's character. And it draws a lot on medieval tropes, and it was a great deal of fun to write that chapbook. My second chapbook was a bit of a turning point in my writing, where I used some of Lorca's, Federico Garcia Lorca's Spanish poems and did transcreations of those, or translations, what we might call, what they might be called. And basically it's using the sound and word rhymes and visual rhymes and the sound of the Spanish to create new poems in English. And those poems are much more abstract than the ones in my first chapbook. And my work has been moving much more in that direction, more toward the abstract, more toward being centered around language, being centered around words and the way that the words speak to each other.